We're back for our presentation number 4, and we are at the St. Paul's School Garden. And to the right is Helene Conklin, and Jack and Mary Griffith are in the middle, and Mark Knight is anchoring us there with his garden tool, and I'm Jennifer Knight. We are Extension Master Gardeners with Craven County, and it's the beginning of the growing season. Last week we did some planting, and we're going to discuss that this week. So if everybody wants to go to their project, I'll come visit and we'll talk about what we've done in the various locations. Helene, we're going to do the peas that you want to show everybody about. Helene and Barb had a pea project, and Barb is not with us today, but I'd like to look at Barb's project too. So let's start with the lettuces. Jack, do you want to talk about what we planted in the fall and what we've now planted in the spring? And we have some shadowing here. We are just about midday in the winter and the sun is low, so we can see where our garden doesn't have as much sun as it does in the growing season. But the lettuces that we had as little starts last fall are the larger ones, and we had some that we decided to do this year. Jack, what do we have? We have the
little seedlings that we started, and we planted them, transplanted them from the little pots to.
So they are from 4-inch pots. They are transplants, not seeded, and we carried them through the winter so that we'd have the ability to start a few more now to see which ones are going to be more prolific for us. The ones that are going to start as soon as it warms up, they'll become really robust plants, and the little ones hopefully will elongate the season for us. And we're going to be watching to see if they bolt, which means that they'll go to seed really quickly. You can see that little green one on the back is starting to stretch up, and that it may be getting ready to put some seed out. So when we're harvesting these through the winter, if we had 15 or 20 of them instead of 5, we could be picking all of the little outside leaves and eating them and working our way up the plant. The plant will continue to put out new growth from the center. So what you can do is you can harvest the leaves that are around the base and use them in salads. And this one is a really good example of it. If we were to come in and pick everything below here, we could keep the plant alive and continue to eat from the salad plants through a lot of the winter. So we have mediocre cabbage. But all of those leaves could be edible, and we'll let them. This is, from a date standpoint, we are on the 7th of March, so we're just coming into what will be a robust growing season between April and May. And Jack, what did we do down on that end? We had, there was a coneflower that'll come back next spring, or later in the spring.
Lettuces.
Yeah, so we seeded lettuce. And again, we're gonna wait and see. We're just maybe getting to a temperature in the soil where we'll be able to see germination. And we set out some new seed of what's called salad bulb. It's the green one, I think. I think it's going to be that one. And we know that we're going to have some perennials. So the hope is that we will harvest our lettuce, if it grows, before the perennials need to take up the space. And then, Mary, I'm going to go back to you. We'll wait on the peas for 1 second because we'll go from one pea project to the other. So Mary and I prepared a bed for radishes, and we ended up with, what variety was this? Cherry Belle? Yep, Cherry Belle, and that's a pretty tried and true little round red radish. And so radishes have a germination and harvest time frame of, what do you think, Mary?
About 7 to 10 days.
For the germination?
Germination,
yep.
Yes.
And then they are something that we can pull in and out of this space very quickly. They're one of the quickest of the root vegetables to come to harvest. And I have a really nice recipe that uses the greens. I make a soup, and it's actually a potato and radish green soup, and it's pureed, and it's, throw a little bacon in that, and it's really, really tasty. So we can use the whole plant, and we are 7 days now. And it was warm last week, so we got a little ambitious, and it's gotten cold again. It's going to be cold for a few days, so maybe by next weekend we'll see some radishes peeking their heads out.
You put in 4 rows of them.
4 linear long rows, the long way. So that's going to be.
One coming up here.
Are we germinating?
Maybe one coming up there.
They are in the I always say this wrong, brassica family, and that does not look like the way their leaves come in. That looks like it could be just a weed. Usually you see opposite leaves, just two of them open, and all of the cabbages and collards and all of these little round seeds, you can kind of see what the seed is like when it's in the same family. And that's weed. They all look alike when they germinate. So we'll hopefully have that to show next week. Speaking of germinating, so we had something weird happen here. And we're not entirely sure how this went, but I one year bought chicory and I thought all the seed was dud. And I think we may have had, well, I know we have mustard there. And Jack and I transplanted some of these plants around from this row, and it looks like this row that didn't have a lot of germination when we moved the mustard has clearly planted chicory coming up. And I think that we know it's chicory because we can see that really sort of rough and prickly leaf. That sure looks like the kind of leaf we'd see on the bitter green. And then we noticed today that that's a root. And I grew these plants at K Street once, and they were really, really robust. They went deep into the warm season and produced very large roots. And I guess we could figure out what to do with chicory. Stay tuned, because it's not terribly tasty. It's a very bitter green, but it's got a lot of nutrients in it. I know that. And here we have, I think we have a real depletion of nitrogen. We did transplant some of the collards. We had a lot of them down here, and we left some there and moved some here, and then these 4 larger ones, they're Brussels sprouts, and we have bok choy, and it's a baby bok choy, but the plants, I have them at my house, same plants, same time, same nursery, and they're much more robust. So we have some cottonseed meal here today, and we're going to go ahead and fertilize all of our greens so that the soil has a lot of nitrogen in it as soon as we get some warm weather. So we're coming over to potatoes. These are Irish potatoes. And Mark graciously tilled everything for us, double dug it up, and then and I have some pictures of the preparation for the potatoes, and we'll go ahead and post that, because you get the whole potato that is sprouting, and these are your seed starts, and you cut them so that you have, maybe out of 1 potato you can get 4 seed starts, so long as you have eyes that are going to be able to grow, the little eyes on the potato. And they're not like the potatoes you get in the grocery store, because the potatoes in the grocery store are actually treated so that they don't sprout, whereas these potatoes are naturally sprouting. In fact, they are the potatoes we saved from our garden here last year, or our garden at the house last year. And they are about 4 inches under each one of those mounds, so each mound then has a lot of space for the roots to develop in a big package of what will be a lot of new potatoes if they're small, or if we can get some that are larger. Red potatoes sometimes do really well here. This is a white or a yellow potato, and this is what's considered Irish potatoes, not sweet potatoes. They'll grow until about Memorial Day, and then we'll harvest them, and they are really beautiful plants. Just like the eggplant, the potato has a lovely foliage, a pretty flower, and it'll go through its whole life cycle, and then it'll start to die back in the heat, and we'll harvest the potatoes. So if we're lucky, what do we have, Mark? 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 piles, Mark? There are 12 mounds, and maybe 3 pounds out of each mound if we have a good season.
How many would you ask?
There are 12 mounds, and
Yes.
and 3 pounds from each mound if we have a good season.
I would say about 3 pounds of potatoes apiece.
Okay, so now fertilization is an issue and a necessity here too. So the structure of the bed is such that we can fertilize around those mounds, so that the lower part of the ground, or the lower planting area, has fertilizer in it, which will feed the roots, which is what the potatoes grow on or become. So we're going to go to Helene and we're going to see about the peas. The other thing that was planted, and this is all between the 1st and the 10th of March, and this is in eastern North Carolina. And so during this season and in this phase of our climate change experience, it works that we can get some things in the ground early, which our region has always been able to do. We're being a little more mindful of things that drown. We had almost 20 inches of rain in the last 2 months, which is really a lot of wet weather. And we have temperatures that seem to be fluctuating a lot. We were close to 80 degrees for a few days yesterday, and tonight it's supposed to be 29. And we're having a stretch now where we're going to be below freezing for 3 or 4 days. So if we go in too soon and our plants are young and they germinate and they're tender and we go whomping down to 29 degrees, that can be tough on the plant. So we have pushed the envelope to be probably as soon as we should venture out with some of the more tender cool season plants. And we hope to have a long enough season in the spring that they'll get a chance to grow. So tell us about this method of planting.
Okay, according to the specs and the seeds that we purchased from our crop masters associated with cooperative extension like we are, that you need to have a trellis, which would be something like a fence.
Yes, and
or
we'll see that over there when we talk to
or
Mark.
The alternative is a tomato cage. So what we did was we planted seeds around each of the stakes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so you're talking about each of the tripod that goes into the ground. We have a support stake, but each of the little triangular pieces, or the triangulation, has how many? 3?
Has 4.
4?
1, 2, 3, 4, because you're
Okay.
supposed to plant them like 3 inches apart.
Okay.
And in case one doesn't come up, we're set. Then what we will do is train them to come up the cage and add twine in the intermediate spaces to latch them to so that they'll have a full support.
Yeah, they get little tendrils that come off of the pea vine, and they want to attach to something, and they're really delicate. You can even use something as like fishing line. They'll attach to it. So
If you can see it.
well, but yeah, right. but what will happen is the actual the plant will find the fishing line if you give it just the right height. And I mean, it's amazing how they seek out as part of an they're an intelligent.
And they'll even twine on each other, which you don't necessarily want
Yes,
them to do.
yes, you're very right about that.
So with the seeds that we got, purchased from them, we made up little packets
Look at
of
that.
10 pea seeds. Look at how red they are.
They're coated.
They're coated, yes,
Yes,
I know.
and I should ask Audrey what they're coated with so that we can. But it's not a. It was not.
Is it sulfur, do you think?
She told me, and it wasn't something that concerned me. And she's very organic, and she was worried that somebody might be concerned about it. But I don't. I'd have to. I'll find out.
And everybody will get the instructions.
And the instructions that come with them. Wonderful, from the Crop Masters of Craven County. Perfect. So we will take more video as our seedlings start to develop, but this is what we have put in the ground here and there, and here are some seedlings that we started. And Mark,
Yes.
let's talk about what Barb did. She took some really good pictures of what she was doing along the fence, and let's talk about the peas for 1 second, because these are what are considered snap peas, and Helene has used sugar peas,
Okay.
and we know that we also have
The
snow
Alaskan.
peas. Now the Alaskan are considered snap peas. We have green green arrow, and the other one is an early Alaska, I think.
Yes.
So in our climate, we're looking for peas that come in and develop and can be harvested. Jack, let me see that. Hold out your hand there. That's the size of the pea, and they're being spaced at about, Helene, what did you say spacing at? 4 inches?
3 to 6.
Okay, because I was going to say a little bit. I think that we can space them pretty close when we've got a fence like this.
That's
And the
what
little
Barb-
tendrils, yeah, that's what Barb did. And the little tendrils will easily germinate and grab onto that fence. And you see that the gauge of that wire is probably okay for them too. But if it's like a 2x4, they're not going to have anything to grab onto. So it's got to be a fence that, or a meshing. You can even use, a deer netting or something that gives them a really easy grab space. So the other thing that Barb put in here were onions. Yes, so we trenched this whole edge, and they're considered sets because they were small bulbs, and we should be able to have green onions at minimum by maybe the 1st of May. And if we let these sets grow and have an opportunity to bulb, then maybe by June 1st we'll have something that we can pull out that actually has a rounded shape to it and looks like an onion. Our garlics are growing like crazy, and so we will harvest them once they grew through their full life cycle, and they're going to produce a flower on a skein that's an allium head, and we'll watch that, and when that's done we could collect seeds, which would take a very long time to then mature into an edible plant. But when it goes through its life cycle, we'll dig some of them up and we'll take some of the garlic bulbs and then put 1 or 2 back in the ground so that it can start again, and we create this cycle.
And we're in construction.
Yes, we're in construction. So we are about to, we have done something that was a really big project, and we have Mark to thank. Thank you, Mark, and Steve, his helping partner there. They came through here and they used a Ditch Witch trencher. It wasn't a Ditch Witch, but it's a 6-inch trencher, and they cut a hole all the way around, a trench, excuse me, all the way around the bed or the fence. And the goal here was to stop the root encroachment from the trees, and that if we could cut through the roots, we might find that there was less competition in this space here where we're trying to grow our vegetables. You can see that we still have morning shade, and by 1 o'clock or so, we think that we'll have some sun in this area. And during the summer months, there's plenty of sun. The biggest issue was the root encroachment, and it looks like we're making an effort to get past that. The other thing that we should talk about are the ornamentals that we have here, because we do have some bulbs, and they're just starting to get ready to open. And one of the things that we're going to do on the back side of the fence is some beautification. So where that line is between the trenched line and the fence, we're going to create a little landscape bed there and seed some perennial flowers. And these are our beets, and they are trying. Again, I think we probably got some nutritional issues here, but we'll see what we get in another month or two. And Helene, where's the cottonseed meal? The cottonseed meal. Let me go ahead and show that. While they're getting that, I'm going to pause on the loofah. So, these are the big, ugly loofah. And this is the loofah from here that finally dried, and that we will peel, and we will expose all of that fibrous material. And we have to shake the seeds out. I'm going to shake something so you can hear this. And those are all the seeds that are in here. And before you peel them, you actually beat these around in order to, hang on one second. Hang on, y'all, we're filming, so we're trying to just go ahead and not do too much private talking on the side. So we're beating these up in order to loosen all of the seed, and then we peel them. And this one is not terribly mature. It didn't grow out real well, but I can take some of the, it didn't get a chance to mature on the vine very well. But when I take some of the, I don't know, this one is just, that one really rotted. But you can see that it did have a chance to get fibrous, but the seeds didn't mature in this one. They're white still, and so they didn't do so well. Yeah, and that's, Jack, that's a really good way to do it, where you break off the bottom once this one, I banged this one around, and so they're loose. See, those are white seeds, and if the seed is white, then the fibrous, it didn't go through its life cycle enough to really produce this nice spongy thing. And the other thing I should mention, yeah, they're white, so they're not, that never really matured. It's the black seed. If you were to open the bottom on that one, Jack, I'll bet you'll pour a lot of black seeds into your hand. And then you take the sponge, what's he got?
Here.
Yeah. Yeah, see that those are more mature seeds, and
Look at
that's yeah, it's amazing. There are like hundreds of them.
They're just dumping right out.
Yep, and then this is like there's like this will actually come off. There's a white coating on them, and that does come off, and then they're these nice black seeds. If you don't want to do that, Mary, he's going to have more than he can hold. They're just amazing. And so then after they're all up in there, and we're fully dried, and you have these nice caverns, and they pour right out. And then if you were to start to peel that one, you'd actually have something that looks more like this, I think. Yeah, and you see those veins that you they actually have like a ribbing and a vein that you can pull the vein when they're a little less dry, and it allows you to. That might be hard with gloves. You might have to do it with your nails.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. You get past that little bit of a film, and you see this vein here?
Like
If you grab these and you just pull that back, and then it lets that whole area. Yeah. See that? So then you can let that whole area peel off because you've broken it loose.
Playing a little hard to get.
Well, I think it's the glove. I think that there's a lot of. It's much harder to do with the glove. And it takes a little bit of work.
Oh, but it's great. This is terrific.
It's very cathartic. It is.
Fun.
And this one had the seeds removed, and I think it may have been an older one that was a little darker. I think that one has been bleached, and this one has been bleached. So you get some variation, and some are better for the kitchen sink, and some you might want to use on your elbows in order to take off some winter skin. And so you can see that one is, I think the ones that we had here, we left them on, they came in later, and they're not peeling as smoothly, probably because they didn't get to mature before we got really cold. But there we go. And there's still, see, I got a little bit of a layer. It looks like it had gotten a little mildew on it. But when that gets cleaned up and bleached, that will look probably like that one. And then that one was just a younger, more, from the middle of the season, when it's a perfect little fruit and it gets a chance to mature like it needs to, it turns that color. And you can see that you just cut pieces. That's easily used at the kitchen sink or in the bathtub. And
yes, I use these all the time.
And they're very easy to propagate. So now that we have been jabbering about this for a while, and we're into beyond 20 minutes, what were we going to look at? The cottonseed meal. There we go. So, fertilizing, thanks Mary, fertilizing with cottonseed meal. Cottonseed meal is a 6 in nitrogen, 1.5 in phosphorus, and 2.5 in potassium. So it's a very gentle, very slow release, nice. In our area, it's a waste product of the cotton gin, so this is all sourced very sustainably, locally. I say locally, regionally. And we use it just the way you would use any of the other commercial fertilizers. You're just putting it out in the potatoes. We want a nice heavy dusting because it will break down slowly. It's very difficult to burn plants with this. It will not burn the root systems because it's such a slow release. But if you get the dust, and you can see it's a little bit dusty, if you get the dust on the plant foliage, then that's going to be an issue. So you want to make sure that if you have a windy day or you're getting a little bit of a dusting when you're going by, get real close to the ground when you're putting it out, that you are ready to rinse off the foliage if you're putting this out on plants that are in flower or if they're leafed out already. So everybody, what do you think? Are we done for today? Aside from the fertilizing, is there anything else we want to share?
I think we're pretty good. It's still early in the season.
Yeah, it's very.
We should be just happy that we've got growing what's growing now. The rabbits aren't out. The deer can't get in.
And when everything starts to germinate, we'll learn the hard way if those things start to fail.
Yeah, and the weeds will change over.
Yes.
Good.
There's plenty to look forward to. And then the harvest. There's always the harvest, which is great.
And the surprises along
The surprises along the way. One of the things that we've learned is you never count chickens before they hatch, right? Because the things you think are going to do great sometimes fail, and the things you think are marginal do wonderfully. So we're off to a new season, and we look forward to sharing everything we're doing with all of you that want to watch. Enjoy your gardening.
Another good day.
Anything else?